Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Tuesday Tips. You can see we're getting ready for the holidays, as well as I'm sure all of you are. So, we decided to choose a little topic that was a little lighter. We sometimes, caring for aging loved ones requires sometimes some heavy topics. So, today we're going to lighten this up. So, stay with us. We are actually going to talk about something that's I think really meaningful. And we're going to talk about legacy building activities to share with aging loved ones. And, whether you're caring for a parent, a grandparent, or another cherished elder, creating opportunities to honor their legacy isn't just about preserving memories. It's about strengthening bonds, celebrating their wisdom. Well, I am such a romantic and such a sap at heart. One of my most favorite things to do when I'm talking to an elderly couple is to ask them how they met, who asked the one out first, what was their life, their courting days like. So, it's just a great time during the holidays. We're around family that maybe we don't see a lot during the year. So it would be a really great time to spend some time with the aging loved ones in your family and just really strengthen bonds, again, celebrate their wisdom, everything that they've learned and experienced throughout their life, and then build something that lasts for future generations. And we're going to talk about tonight some different ways you can do that, some different strategies. But I have to share an important message here before we get started. The Tuesday Tips video series, this took a lot of thought. We're in the planning process for Your Nurse Advocate Consulting as far as what does 2026 going to look like. And so we're making some changes. So as of January 6th, the beginning of the new year in 2026, we are going to exchange the Tuesday Tips is now going to be part of our Your Nurse Advocate Now hub, again, beginning January 6th. So it will not be live on our Facebook group anymore. And the replays won't be as accessible in YouTube anymore. We are going to continue our podcast, which we are really excited. We've got some great episodes coming up. We have a end of life doula. We have a nurse practitioner who specializes in cannabis therapy. And so we have a lot of good things coming up in our podcast, and that is going to continue to be a free resource for you. And that is also going to be accessible. You can be able to listen to those on our YouTube channel. We will have other videos that we will be sharing on our YouTube video, but the Tuesday Tips will move to our hub. And I'll be sharing more information on how you can get access to those and what that will entail as we move into the new year. So let's go ahead and jump in. So why does legacy activities matter? Let's start with the why. Legacy building activities, what does that do? It empowers our seniors to share their stories, their values, traditions. It makes them feel heard. I mean, a lot of times as our aging adults, we have a tendency in our culture to kind of cast them aside. They're kind of used up, but I encourage everyone to look at all the special things that they can share with us, all the things that they've seen. Ask them all the changes, the technology that they've seen in their lifetime. And so it really is, could be really creating some joyful moments together. And these activities can also help reduce the feeling of isolation and loss of purpose, that sometimes comes with aging. So that's a really good, so it's a win-win for everybody, I think. So the first one is just storytelling sessions. Every life is a library, and I really like that analogy because it's so true. So invite your loved one to share their stories. Maybe set aside, a cozy time, during the holiday season when they're over, when you're together, maybe not during the hubbub of your holiday celebration, but maybe over coffee or after dinner, and just ask them open-ended questions. What was your favorite child memory? There's so many books and things out there, grandparent prompts, there's a lot of things, a lot of tools out there. And so we're not going to get into all of those kind of things, but just to give you ideas and get the wheels turning, that maybe you could reach out and look at some of these resources, depending on what kind of legacy work that you would like to do with your aging loved one. So, questions like, what was your favorite childhood memory? What was it like going to school? How did you meet your best friend? Are you still in contact with people that you went to school with? Record these conversations, obviously with permission, on your phone, or write them down in a journal. Those are just a couple of different ways. And turn these stories into a family keepsake. You can actually, there's places where you can get a printed legacy book. So you can, maybe make a Google Doc and get that turned into a book for the family. What a great Christmas present that would be for years to come. Or even just a simple binder of stories and photos. My mother-in-law was amazing. She was so organized. She had binders with the family genealogy. She had photo binders, and everything was so well organized. And it's nice. But now we have all of these things, and currently, we have the genealogy books and some things like that. But unless we do something digitally, or unless we condense them into something, we're the only ones that have them right now. We want to be able to, everybody in the family should be able to have access to those. So, pro tip here is turn these stories into a family keepsake. We talked about the legacy book, the binder, the stories, and you'll be amazed at the wisdom and the humor that comes out of this. And your loved one, your aging loved one will really, truly feel seen and valued. And that is, so important with this. So let's go on to what's another idea. What else can we do? Now, maybe some families, or you or someone in your family, is really into scrapbooking. So a scrapbook, or a memory box, a shadow box, something that you can get creative and maybe do as a family, gather old photos, letters. I found, and I have it, and I found a letter. It was my dad's mom and dad. So my grandma and grandpa. And I read a letter that my grandma had saved for my grandpa. And it was really a love letter. They were truly corresponding from different places. They weren't married yet. And, my grandpa's nickname was Toots. And I mean, that even started, that came from high school football. So, all of these things are just so neat to go through. So, ticket stubs, small mementos, things like that. I even saved, my grandma even saved some of the wartime, ration booklets that we have, and so many things to talk about, that they can, create questions and just learn about all those things that we don't know anything really about except what we read in history books. So let your loved one tell the stories behind each item as you go through. And what an amazing time I think that would be. And so why this matters, scrapbooking is really a hands-on way to reminisce, spark conversation, and preserve family history. I'm one of those genealogy nuts. I and I know some people don't, but I just feel like there's a strong pull to know my roots, where I came from, where did my ancestors come from before they came, to America. And I found that a lot of my ancestors on one side of the family really came over in the early 1600s and 1700s when the colonies were being developed. And then on another side, I have family that comes from, Sweden. And so it's just, it's great. So maybe if it's not you, maybe there's someone in your family that really, feels a passion about wanting to create something like this. And, and it's also a great multi-generational activity. Invite the grandkids, the nieces, nephew, everybody can join into this. And I think this would be really a good time to bring all those different generations together. So another thing is that we can pull together, and this is a nice Christmas gift as well. And I've started to do this myself, is to create a family recipe collection. Food is memory, so capture it. I think about our, one of our celebrations at Christmas time we've had the same meal now for a long time, and the kids love it. It's venison. My husband and I, we have other hunters in the family, and we, we consume those harvested animals, and so everybody loves venison. We have venison, mashed potatoes, cornbread casserole, broccoli corn casserole. We have sweet tray. We have a salad, rolls, and this that is our tradition. So whatever your tradition may be, I would love to know if you guys have any traditions that you carry on. Please share them. I would love to know that. I think that's great information. This Christmas, we're trying to honor our Swedish background. So I found through a relative, I found a place where I could get Swedish limpa bread that I can make in my bread maker. So I'm going to bring that with some herring. And so just different things. So what are some favorite family recipes? What was something that your grandma made that everybody just loved and no one can seem to get just right? Find that recipe and share that and compile a family recipe book, and complete with stories. It's, if you can, maybe on one, front of the card is the recipe, and maybe on the back is a couple little sentences about why this is so special, or why you're saving this, this recipe, or the stories about where each recipe came from. And and here's a bonus idea too. Maybe host a family recipe night where everybody brings a dish and shares the story behind it. Bring a family dish. This is a beautiful way to pass down traditions and keep your loved one's legacy alive at every family gathering. And one of the things that we miss now that my mother-in-law is gone is always the weekend, prior to Thanksgiving, is we would make lefse, and that was a fun thing. We giggled, we laughed, and it was a great thing to do. So those are great memories also to create and to relive. So, all right. So how about a legacy video? This is capture their stories on camera. Maybe you have one of the grandkids that's into that and maybe has some editing skills, or really capture their stories on camera. Set up a simple video interview. Use your smartphone, your webcam, your tablet, your iPad, and prepare a list of fun and meaningful questions. Ask your family, what would you really like to know about mom and dad? Or what would you really like to know about grandma and grandpa, or great grandma and grandpa, or your great aunt, your great uncle? What's the best advice you've ever received? Ask them. What's a lesson you want your grandchildren to remember? And, encourage the grandkids or the nieces and nephews to be the interviewers or to share their own favorite memories on camera. And, why is this so powerful? Legacy video, you can save that, you can download it. Everybody can have a flash drive. Everybody can have this video. And it's not just words, but it's voice, it's laughter, it's personality. You can see them. You could relive, being in the room with them. And it's a gift that future generations, can cherish forever. And it's really a wonderful bonding activity for grandkids and grandparents alike. And, I'm going to go ahead and drop this in. I do have it in the comments, and I'm going to throw it up here just on the screen here for a minute. But and this will also be if you are joining us for the replay on our YouTube channel, I will have this in the video description. But this is a interview that we did on a video with Judy Helmwright, and her business is helping families create a memoir. And this video was titled, "You Don't Have to Be a Writer to Leave Your Legacy." So I do have that. That's in the comments. And so that is a great resource about creating, the legacy work. And, one of the things too is, I think one of the things that was awesome too, and is creating a playlist of their favorite songs. My sister Janet did this when our dad passed away. She created a playlist and of all the songs that either reminded us of dad or that were his favorite songs. And, I can remember one as a kid, I can remember, it must have been in the 60s, and I'm the oldest, so I remember some of these things, but he would just love that song "Down in the Boondocks." And he'd turn the radio up when that came on. And so a playlist is another way of being able to bring that person closer to you and really relive memories with them as you listen to the songs that had meaning to them. So that's another great idea, is to, record a playlist and then share that with the family. And, we talked briefly about involving the grandkids, and I just want to touch on that one more time as we're looking to wrap up, is make it a family affair. Legacy building is even more meaningful when you bring the youngest family members into the process. My mom is, in her 80s, and her face just lights up with those great grandkids, those newest babies in the family, and even the younger ones. She gets such a kick out of them. So involve, if they're old enough to participate, please involve those younger family members. So invite the kids to help with the scrapbooking or cook alongside in the kitchen, or really brainstorm questions for the legacy video. Maybe they can decorate pages, draw pictures, something that you can put in there, and so that they can add their own memories and their own messages, at their appropriate age. And encourage them to ask questions about what was life like when you were my age. And I think everybody would enjoy hearing what that was like. So these shared, moments, they really help kids understand their roots and build empathy, learn to experience what people's lives were like, like stepping into their shoes, while also giving seniors a sense of pride and connection, knowing that their family is interested in all of these things. So in wrapping up, legacy building doesn't have to be complicated or time consuming. It just takes intention, and you just need to take the time to decide what method of legacy building that you're going to do, and then a little bit of heart. A little bit of passion there. So this week, I challenge you to pick one of these activities, make a date with your loved one, share your experiences with us in the comments of the video on our YouTube or here in Facebook. And, I would love to see that. And I think our community would love that, your ideas as well. So what did you discover, and how did it make you feel? I can't wait really to see some of your comments and some of the choices that you made as far as your legacy work. And I just want to say thank you for joining me for this Tuesday Tips as we get into the holidays. Holiday blessings to everyone, no matter how you celebrate this season. We wish you joy, prosperity, a happy new year, and family and building memories. And we look forward to, we'll get another couple of Tuesday Tips in before the holidays hit. But if you need more ideas or support, don't hesitate to reach out. And remember, every story matters. Every memory is a treasure. And together we can honor the legacies of those that we love. So thank you again for joining us for this week's Tuesday Tips. Take care, and we'll see you soon.